And a good midday Wednesday for everyone. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. Looking at the big scene right now, from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. And of course the big news is all the systems coming in across the Pacific ramming up against the west coast of the U.S., namely California, occasionally into Oregon and Washington as well. Also British Columbia. But a lot of that jet stream energy makes it over into the Rockies, produces snow like what we're seeing now, and then basically it warms things up. Secondary lows spin up east of the Rocky Mountains, generally Lee, Colorado lows or Panhandle lows, and they take a track basically into the Ohio River Valley and then curl up west of our region into the Great Lakes. As that takes place, we get a warm intrusion, and thus our weather pattern is basically we warm up, we cool down, and then we warm up, we cool down, and that roller coaster ride only continues. This is our current conditions with a precipitation type. This will be the next incoming storm system, and actually it's going to form with this fairly significant trough, shortwave trough, and spin up an area of low pressure which will then track again to our west and provide us with a mild intrusion yet again. Looking at temperatures, right now it's pretty cold. We've had actually some minus temperatures in the Northeast Kingdom, as low as 8 below in some locations, and even probably a little colder than that. But things have warmed up considerably. We're looking at a real nice day thanks to this sort of flat ridge of higher pressure, as you can see. Our weather systems will continue to kick in from west to east. But really, this is where it's all coming from. This is the Pacific shot of the nighttime microphysics, where this is high clouds. You can see lower clouds, and you really do get to see what's going on with eyes at night. This is a very strong area of low pressure here. It's convective as well. There's a lot of cold cellular cumulus clouds. These are actually cumulonimbus clouds producing a little bit of lightning. And this has been the case west of California and occasionally into California. Have never seen so many thunderstorms as I've seen so far this winter coming in from the Pacific coast. So we have the, on the left-hand side, we have the European model. We have the GFS and SUM on the right-hand side. They're in relatively decent agreement. Little things to notice, this area of higher pressure, 1030 hectopascals. European has it at 1032, and so on. And the European has a tendency to have the better skill set. But we're running the model here. We have a beautiful day in progress, but as the time we get into tonight, we have this kind of warm front that's going to make it into Vermont. That's going to trigger a few flurries, not really very much, same kind of thing you can see here. And then it basically pushes off north, but the main portion of this storm system really doesn't arrive until Thursday afternoon, and that's spreading in with a little bit of snow on the front side, warm air advection out ahead of this area of low pressure, and you can see how it develops with that jet stream energy crossing the Rockies, spins up that Colorado lee low, that takes a track toward the Ohio Valley, and then cuts across in the eastern Great Lakes, tightens up the pressure gradient a little bit, and also introduces warm air advection, and that means we go from a little bit of wet snow in the afternoon hours on Thursday, and that continues to then transition to probably sleet, and then some freezing rain, and then eventually all rain. And this transition will change to all rain, it looks like, during the morning hours. That's valid at about 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Friday is just kind of a rainy day. The area of low pressure tracks across the region. We also get dry slotted, meaning we're going to see a little bit of drier weather start to push in. That happens later in the day on Friday, and then it changes back to a little bit of wet snow shower activity before it tails off. There could be some minor mixed precipitation types in this with some of the details, but that then pushes away. By the time we end to Saturday afternoon, we're looking pretty good. And we get this pretty big, massive ridge of higher pressure that'll be the controlling influence along the East Coast. And pretty nice. It actually intensifies just a little bit, and that ridge of higher pressure is good for basically Sunday into the day on Monday. Note what happens here. We got a cutoff low off to the east. Another system that has drawn in across the west coast from off the Pacific, spinning up another area of low pressure. This one's a little bit further to the north and a little bit further away, owed to the fact that this is a little bit stronger ridging. But by the time we get into Tuesday, well, we're looking for more unsettled weather and conditions that are very unpredictable this far out. And there's the temperature workup for the GFS ensemble, centered on the Montpelier grid. But what we're looking at first is precipitation. This is the 3-hourly QPF. And you can see it's one major storm system, and then thereafter, probably the next one down around the corner here. And total QPF looks like this. So better than an inch, but the latest computer modeling indicates about an inch or so. So the models are trending down. The European, by the way, has it at about 7/500ths, 8/10 of an inch. We'll see how this all plays. I imagine it'll come out not too far from an inch or a little bit below the way it's trending. Now, what type of precipitation? Well, we can kind of look at that here. Take about the height of Mount Mansfield, 850 millibars. And anything that goes above that is all rain. Anything that goes below that starts out is going to be some snow. So we get that transition of mixture, and then it changes over to rain, and then it cools off again, repeat, and rinse. And that is the name of the game, and basically precipitation type, starting out as snow in the blue colors here, a little bit of a mix, and then right over to rain. So this is going to be a travel hazard and not a utility hazard as it looks right now. The other thing I'm watching is the 850 hectopascal or millibar winds, and we do have, during that warm intrusion, winds do go over 40 knots, up around 45 knots, and we get close to thresholds in some of our Green Mountain summits and along the immediate western slopes. There could be a gust of 40. I'm not anticipating any impact. Looking at the next 7 days of QPF from the Weather Prediction Center, of course, West Coast barrages only going to continue. Dry in the middle of the country, and a little bit of a return out of the Gulf of Mexico sets up precipitation generally about an inch to 1.5 inches. Climate Reanalyzer at the University of Maine shows anomalous warmth, and oh boy is it ever. A little bit of colder than normal temperatures into California, and that's coming across the Pacific. But there's a lot of cold air back in the Siberian region, a lot of cold air near the North Pole, some colder air in the Canadian archipelago, and so on. That may be changing, and if that does change, that could be significant and change up our weather pattern in about 7 to 10 days. In the meantime, cold air coming in off the Pacific, driving those storms. It's below normal in temperature. The rest of the country above normal in temperature. We're running about 6 degrees above normal, and that's the next 5 days of high temperatures. About 3 days later, looks like that. Not a whole lot of change. A little bit of an inroad of colder weather. And going to leave you on this note, we're looking at snow extent. Now this is for the northern hemisphere as a whole. We were riding pretty much along the higher ends until we got into basically late November, December. Started to see a lot less in the northern hemisphere. And look where we are now. That's fairly significant. But what's driving it is not really North America. North America has been holding their own. We see basically we're back in the middle of the pack here in terms of all these years, this 2022, 2023, and looking at the anomalies right now, we've been kind of a little bit below, a little bit above, a little bit below. Note that we shot up here back in November when we got colder, and that was an extrapolated, I believe that was a elongated polar vortex that started to increase the amount of cold air coming out of the Arctic. But it's really Eurasia that's causing the trouble here, where we've really dropped off with snow. In fact, Eurasia is the primary driver for all of the northern hemisphere. As you can see, the northern hemisphere right there. Eurasia, northern hemisphere. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.